More than 300 years ago, a man was locked away in a French prison. His name was kept secret. His face was never seen. For decades he was moved from fortress to fortress, always under heavy guard, and always wearing a mask. Not a legend, not a myth. He was real. Even his death was hidden, buried under a false name. So who was he? Why was he erased from history? And what was the French monarchy so desperate to keep secret? In the year 1669, something strange appeared in the records of the French royal court. A letter from a powerful official named Marquis de Louvois, the Minister of War, was sent to the governor of a remote prison called Pignerol. The message wasn't long. It simply stated that a new prisoner was arriving. His identity was to remain a secret. He would be under the watch of a single jailer, and he would wear a mask at all times. From the moment he entered the prison, the man became a ghost. No name, no trial, only instructions that he was never to be seen by anyone else. And from that day forward, the mystery began. For years, the masked prisoner remained hidden deep inside Pignerol. He had no contact with other inmates. Only one man was allowed to speak to him, his jailer, Benin d'Auvergne de Saint-Mars. Even Saint-Mars was ordered to keep the man isolated. No name was to be spoken, no visitors, no questions. But the story didn't end in Pignerol. As Saint-Mars was promoted and transferred to govern new prisons, the prisoner went with him. From Pignerol to Exilles, from Exilles to Sainte Marguerite, a fortress on a rocky island, and finally, in 1698, to the most infamous prison in France, the Bastille. Each time the transfer was done in silence, always under tight security, and always the mask remained. Whatever secret this man carried, it was important enough to follow him across France. The man's imprisonment wasn't routine. It came with direct instructions from the highest level of power, King Louis XIV himself. Letters show that Saint-Mars received personal orders regarding the masked prisoner. He was to be treated with respect, given good food, clean clothes. His cell was to be comfortable, but locked at all times. No contact with the outside world. No conversation about his past. It was an unusual mix. Strict isolation, paired with careful treatment. This wasn't how common criminals were handled. It was how you would treat someone important, but dangerous. And the orders continued for decades. From one king's minister to another, they all followed the same rule. Protect the secret. Keep the man hidden. And above all, keep the mask on. For centuries, stories claimed the man wore a heavy iron mask, a face covering so cruel, it became legend. But in truth, the mask was likely something different, and far more practical. Descriptions from prison records suggest it was made of metal, covered in black velvet. It concealed the face, but allowed the man to eat, breathe, and speak. It was designed not for torture, but for anonymity. Still, the effect was chilling. Even guards who served him never saw his face. And those who got too curious were quickly reassigned or silenced. The mask became more than just a disguise. It was a symbol, a reminder that this man was not meant to be known. Not by prisoners, not by the public, and not by history. The world might have forgotten the prisoner, if not for a man named Voltaire. Years after the masked man's death, Voltaire, the famous French philosopher, was imprisoned in the Bastille. While there, he heard whispers from the guards, stories about a mysterious prisoner, a man whose face had been hidden for years, a man who wore an iron mask. When Voltaire was released, he shared the tale. In letters, essays, and conversations across Europe, he repeated the story. He called the prisoner the man in the iron mask, and claimed the man had been locked away because he was the twin brother of Louis XIV. There was no proof, but the idea caught fire. Writers, historians, and the public were captivated. Who was this masked man? And what could possibly justify such a life in the shadows? The mystery had begun to spread, far beyond the walls of the Bastille. Once the story was out, speculation took over. Some believed the prisoner was a royal twin, hidden to protect the throne. Others said he was a disgraced noble, a general who knew too much, or even a valet who had seen something he shouldn't. A few claimed he was an illegitimate child of the queen. Others thought he was a close advisor, punished for betrayal. The theories kept coming, each more dramatic than the last, but none could be confirmed. Historians searched court records, letters, and prison logs. They found gaps, missing documents, redacted names, and still no clear identity. The more people looked, the deeper the mystery became. One thing was certain: whoever he was, someone in power had gone to great lengths to erase him. As interest in the masked prisoner grew, researchers turned to official archives, but what they found was strange. Many documents from that period were missing. Some had been altered, others were sealed or destroyed. Entire sections of prison records had gaps, right around the time the masked man was held. His burial record offered little help. It listed a name, Marchioli, but no one by that name had ever existed in the court, the army, or the nobility. It was a placeholder, a name designed to lead nowhere. And it worked. Every time historians got close, the trail went cold. It was as if someone had carefully erased the man, piece by piece. The secrecy didn't fade with time. If anything, it seemed deliberate, a silence protected across generations. The man's appearance in the records wasn't random. He arrived in prison during a time of tension inside the French royal court. Louis XIV was still young, but already obsessed with power and image. Rumors were spreading of affairs, illegitimate children, and internal rivalries. Some historians noticed that the masked prisoner appeared shortly after a major scandal involving the king's mother and her private life. Others pointed to secret births, hidden adoptions, or political threats tied to the royal bloodline. Could the prisoner have been someone with a direct connection to the crown? A relative, a witness, or even a rival? The timing raised more questions than answers, but it also added weight to one disturbing possibility. This wasn't just a prisoner. He may have been part of the royal family itself. Of all the theories, one has captured the imagination more than any other: that the masked man was the twin brother of King Louis XIV. Born second, hidden from birth, kept secret to prevent any challenge to the throne. According to the theory, the existence of two heirs would have threatened the stability of the monarchy. So the second child was quietly taken away, raised in secret, and later imprisoned to ensure silence. It would explain the special treatment, the orders from the king, the lifelong mask. Voltaire believed this version. So did writers like Alexandre Dumas, who later turned the theory into legend with his novel The Man in the Iron Mask. There's no proof, but the details, the secrecy, the timing, the fear of scandal make it feel possible. After all, if you wanted to hide a royal twin, you'd do exactly what they did. Not everyone believes the man in the mask was royal. Some historians suggest he may have been a servant, perhaps a valet who had seen or overheard something dangerous. Others think he could have been a military officer or a diplomat, someone who had access to sensitive information and posed a threat if he ever spoke. One name that surfaces often is Eustache Doger, a man with no clear past, arrested quietly and placed under Saint Mara's watch, the same jailer who guarded the masked prisoner. Some records mention Doger as the name behind the mask, but those records are vague and likely written after the fact. If he was a valet, what had he seen? If he was a spy, what did he know? The theory is simpler, but still chilling. Maybe the man wasn't born into power. Maybe he just got too close to it. King Louis XIV ruled with absolute control. He shaped the image of France, its court, and himself, down to the smallest detail. To Louis, appearances were everything. He tolerated no threats, no rumors, no stories that might cast doubt on the strength of the monarchy. Even members of his own family weren't safe. He banished lovers, silenced critics, and erased those who knew too much. In that world, scandal wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. It could lead to rebellion, to foreign enemies exploiting weakness, to civil unrest. So if someone posed a threat to the royal image, whether a twin, a witness, or a rival, Louis would have acted swiftly and quietly. The mask, the isolation, the secrecy, it all fits with a king trying to protect one thing above all: his legacy. The masked man died in 1703 at the Bastille. There was no announcement, no public record of his passing, only a quiet burial under the name Marchioli. The name didn't match any known noble, official, or prisoner. It appeared to be invented, just like everything else about him. The few documents that mention his death are vague. They give no background, no family, no origin. He was laid to rest in the St. Paul Cemetery in Paris. No marker, no real identity. Even in death, the secrecy remained. It was as if his entire life had been designed to leave no trace. The mask may have come off, but the mystery stayed buried with him. Over the centuries, historians have searched for answers. They've pored over prison logs, royal correspondence, military records, and church archives. They've traced the movements of jailers, cross-checked timelines, followed every rumor and clue. Some have focused on names like Eustache Dogger, Count Ercole Antonio Mattioli, or General Vivien de Bellande. Each theory offers fragments, small pieces that seem to fit, but none provide the full picture. The dates conflict, the records are incomplete, and much of what survives is based on second-hand accounts, rumors, or documents written decades after the fact. Even modern researchers, with access to digitized archives and international databases, have hit dead ends. The closer they get, the more carefully the trail seems to vanish. It's as if someone designed it that way. As the facts faded, the story grew larger. Writers, playwrights, and filmmakers took the mystery and filled in the gaps. In 1847, Alexandre Dumas published The Vicomte of Bragelonne, the final book in his Three Musketeers series. In it, he gave the masked man a name, a past, and a powerful twist. A secret twin brother of King Louis XIV, hidden to protect the crown. The book was a sensation. It turned rumor into legend. Over the next 2 centuries, the Man in the Iron Mask would appear in dozens of films, novels, and television series. Sometimes as a hero, sometimes a victim. Always unknown, each version added a new layer, but none solved the mystery. If anything, they made it harder to separate fact from fiction. But one thing stayed the same. People couldn't stop asking who he was. More than 300 years later, the Man in the Iron Mask is still a mystery. His real name has never been confirmed. His role in history is still debated, and the secret he took to the grave remains locked away. What we do know is this: he was real. He lived in prison for decades. He was hidden by the French state, and someone in power went to great lengths to make sure the world would never know who he was. Was he a royal twin, a witness to scandal, a man who knew too much, or simply existed at the wrong time? We may never know. The mask is gone, but the silence remains. And in that silence, history still listens for the truth.